Okay, so now we're all here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read our little virtual meeting notice. So please be aware that this live council meeting is being recorded. Your personal information, including your image, voice, name, opinions, and any other personal information disclosed by you during the meeting is collected by the City of Roslyn under the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act for the purpose of your participation in public input. If you have any questions about the collection of your personal information, please contact dco@roslyn.ca. If you do not wish your personal information to be collected, please do not join the live council meeting. In order to run the public inputs period smoothly, if you wish to comment on an agenda item, please use the raise your hand button. I will call on those who wish to speak by name. When your name is called, please unmute your microphone, state your name and comments, and thank you very much. So with that, we are going to have our public input period. But first, I just want to say that at the request of the applicant, we are deferring item 8C, the cannabis retail store license application, until our June 15th meeting on our regular agenda. So if your comments are about that, you might want to save them to June 15th, or you're willing to, we are very willing to hear you tonight as well. So that's up to you. So now I'm going to switch over to the attendees and see if anybody raises their hand to speak to us during public input. So I can't see you. You need to use the little raise hand button if you want to speak. And if you don't, we will. Okay, we're going to move on. So now with that deferral that I mentioned, I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda. Council? Okay, Dirk moves it and Chris seconds it. All in favor? Everybody good? Okay, good. Okay, we do not have any petitions or delegations tonight, so we're going to go right into the business of the evening. First up is adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting held on May 4th. Do I have a mover? Okay, Andy moves, Dirk seconds. All in favor of those? Any discussion? Okay. Okay. And next we have minutes of the Heritage Commission meeting on May 11th, and that the minutes and any recommendations within be adopted. Do I have a mover? Janice moves. Seconder? Come on, somebody put up a hand. You're going to second. Okay, Andy, good. Okay, does anybody have any comments on this? No comments? No comments? I had a couple. I thought I liked their approach that they want to pick their priorities and forward them to us. We still need to talk about how they're going to integrate with other community groups. I'm assuming that when they're talking about their priorities, they're looking at the Heritage Management Plan. And I like the idea they were talking about expanding the walking tour to integrate some of the other things like the trails and the museum. That's good collaboration there. And also to our Heritage Commission liaison, I suggest that somebody on the Heritage Commission reach out to that new reporter, the Connor Tremblay at the Roslyn News, so they can get accurate information being reported on heritage matters. I think that's great. And yeah, I think that's great. So other than, you know how, oh, Chris. Oh, hold on, you're muted.
One of the things we did discuss was making the Heritage Management Plan suggested plan and break it down to some manageable bites. So we're each going to pick 10 items and then kind of work it down from the most common one at that point and see if we can't come up with some sort of a manageable plan for this.
Yeah, that sounds great. Was the last idea that they wanted to set up a meeting with the Heritage, the Commission and the Museum and RCAC, was that to discuss some of the ideas in the Heritage Management Plan? Is that the purpose of that?
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
It's collaboration more than anything, yeah.
Yeah, great. Nice to see. Okay, so I think did we vote on that? Did we vote? Nobody? Yes.
No, we didn't. We voted? No.
Sorry. I'm assuming we did. We approved their minutes. Okay, so now we have referral from prior meetings. There's the update regarding reducing the speed around playground and speed zones. The staff recommendation based on the report is that it's not recommended to reduce. So do we have any questions or comments or further discussion or direction to staff on that? Anybody? Dirk, unmute yourself.
I didn't see any compelling reasons in there to not do it. We have 20 kilometers an hour on McLeod. We figured out the justification for that. I know there was comments in there about public works and extra hours, but honestly, with that little amount of school zone, the time is not an issue that I could see logically. And I didn't see anything in the documents that were there as to why we could not do it, other than, I don't know, a burden on citizens for driving 10 kilometers an hour less in school zones. So I would like to see it still go forward.
Yeah, I think the one comment that Public Works made was just issue with their equipment, and then issue of going up the hills is what I recall. But staff, do you want to respond to that, Scott, or whoever's in the staff room there?
Scott here. Yes, from my practices, again, I haven't experienced and went here, but it's about momentum. A lot of this time, especially with the steep grades, it's hard to keep control of 20. Now with McLeod, that is not as steep as hill as some of these other concerns. So unfortunately, Darren's not here to comment on that, and I'll talk to him a little bit more input. But from just general practices, we need to keep that momentum, keep that snowfall going.
Darren actually is here in our virtual world. So
Okay, Darren.
He's down in my bottom corner, Scott.
Okay.
I know, Scott, you're used to me not being there. Yeah, so I agree with what Scott's saying there as far as momentum. And what I have seen around town, especially along McLeod, nobody drives 20. If you try to drive 20 along McLeod, it feels awfully weird. It feels like you are almost stopped. And I truly believe the 30 kilometer an hour is plenty slow enough. It's not the 30 kilometer an hour that's an issue. It's the 50 and 60 that people are doing, even though the posted sign. So with the maintenance, I do agree that, coming up St. Paul Street on, to the school there, Washington Street, if you're only going 20 and you're carrying a boatload of snow in your blade, you're going to have problems. So anyway, that's our 2 bits.
I think it kind of followed up with it.
We did have the 20 kilometer an hour sign there before, though, right? Because it was part of our bylaw. Then it didn't get moved. Didn't we have them there?
No, I don't ever remember 20.
Oh, we didn't put it. Okay, because I thought in the previous bylaw, speed bylaw, we had those 20. That's when we had McLeod as 20 and the school is 20, and then it got changed. Okay, somebody else had their hand up and I missed. Who was it? Stuart and then Andy.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to this last time and I completely agree with the points Darren made. I think 20 kilometers an hour is absurd and no one's going to take any notice of it. And just doing it for some sort of symbolic reason just brings rules into disrepute by putting rules out there that people are going to ignore. 30 is a reasonable speed to drive if people actually drive 30.
Andy.
So the whole reason we even had entertained this idea was for safety and safety of our kids in the community around our school zones. And I can't see why we would change it from 30, or can't see why we would put it back up to 30 if we made the commitment to 20. And as pointed out by Dirk in his stats today, science has looked at this and it's definitely safer. 20 kilometers an hour is safer. And we're just asking for it around school zones. And the fact that we don't have recognized speed limit reductions in school zones, I think is a problem. I think it's important to have that delineation between our regular speed limits in our community and the school zones. So that's why I think it's important to maintain that 20 kilometer an hour speed limit, and it defines our school zone separate from the rest of the community streets.
Okay, Dirk has his hand up again, but neither Janice or Chris have spoken. So if you guys want to speak first, then I'll circle around again. Either of you? Chris?
Yeah, I think, it's kind of we're on both sides. The city needs to be able to run their machines safely, of course. I think 30 is a pretty good speed limit and people adhere to it. I kind of agree with Stu on this, that I don't think anybody's really going to adhere to the 20.
Well, and a lot of times people don't adhere to the 30 either, but it's just to get them going 40 instead of 60. That's the whole point. So if it's 20 in the school zone, maybe they go 35 or 40 instead of 50. And we do have people that say people are going 50 around RSS up and down Washington and well, St. Paul as well. Janice.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, it sounded from the work that Cynthia did on this that we could have some challenges with, well, we already have challenges. I mean, we've changed our speed limit to 30 kilometers an hour throughout the city, and we can't enforce it, and the RCMP isn't here enforcing it for us. And people are still driving 40, 50, 60, even 70 or more on some streets on occasion. If we can't enforce 30K, we can't enforce 20K. And I don't know that if we wanted to delineate the school zones from the regular zones, maybe we should have had 40 all over town and 30 in the school zones.
Okay, Dirk, you're up.
Yeah, other than, I think this whole idea that if we can't enforce 20, we shouldn't do it is irrelevant. We can't enforce 30 and we choose to do that anyways. The reality is driving 20 is safer. It's safer for kids. And I'm down there at drop off all the time, watching the kids. There's 2 or 3 cringeworthy events a week. And it just takes somebody going 35 instead of 25. If that's the measure we're taking to reduce the speed, it does matter. I mean, I watched my neighbor kid get run over by a car when I was growing up, and nobody came out of that. He died. The driver was unscathed, driving reasonably slow, and I doubt there's ever been a time where she's regretting the fact that she didn't drive 20. I mean, I don't understand this. It's safer. Let's do it. I don't know about snow plowing, Darren and Scott, if snow plowing during school hours is common. I've seen the plow come through there a couple times, rather quick, and while kids were being dropped off. I get frustrated because it's safer. Why not do it?
Okay, we got a hand up in the staff room, and then I'll go to Stuart.
Yeah, so it's Brian here. We're just wanting to note that that the bylaw was never, like, we never had a 20K speed limit anywhere. It was just talked about at the previous bylaw. Then it got, like, in the draft of the bylaw, and then it went back up to 30K an hour. The previous policy that council had, which was even more is basically unenforceable at all. At least we have a bylaw now on this. But the policy that was originally adopted by council had the 30K speed zone everywhere with 20K in the high traffic area of McLeod. That's why that 20K sign is up there. But we have not removed that yet because we obviously missed that when we went down to the 30K for the blanket through the whole city. So the information in the report is basically our information that we've gotten from MOT, from our lawyers, and from our public works crew, saying that if we were going to go change anything in the speed zone for schools, it has to be a 20K all time. And the thing too is, like, yes, it is definitely slower than 30K. 30K is the provincial standard, really, to be honest with you, when it comes into school zones. If there was an operational challenge in regards to that, we have the provision in our bylaw to have Public Works not abide by our bylaws, but we try to lead by example when we do operational activities. And so even Darren's crew and Scott's crew, when they go around, we know that we're going less than 30K an hour. And even at that time, Darren, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that we still have a little bit of issues sometime when we have a huge amount of sand on the back of our truck and we're pushing snow and we're going up a hill. It still is actually a little bit problematic once in a while for us. So I just wanted to clarify that we've never actually had 20K speed zones in the city. This was an initiative that was looked at, that was changed from the bylaw that we have, and now the direction was for us to investigate what the 20K is.
Yeah, you're right. I was thinking about the policy, but I'd forgotten it was just the policy and not the bylaw. Stuart, you're up. Stuart's frozen.
Just one idea that could. Am I speaking?
You're breaking up a
Can
little
you hear
bit.
me?
Try again.
Oh. now?
Well,
Can you hear me?
we can hear you kind of.
No?
Keep talking. We'll see if.
Oh. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I've got Elise working beside me, and every time she does something, and my connection goes down. She should relax. I just wanted to address the subject of something being more safe. You know, I mean, there is a limit to what is practical. I mean, we could close the roads, and that would be more safe. We could come up with all sorts of impractical suggestions that would be more safe, but we try and balance safety with practicality. And just the notion that driving at like walking speed is more safe, it just doesn't seem implementable to me. And when you were driving around town, people aren't going to do it. I don't see why making that grand gesture is meaningful.
Okay. Dirk has his hand up, and then Andy.
Well, I think I fail to recognize why driving 20 is a legitimate hardship. I mean, it is safer. It's not that hard to do, and we don't have to do it for very long. I don't understand that argument. That's all.
Okay, Andy, you are next.
I'm going to go back to Mayor Moore's argument, is that we often have noted that people drive 10 to 15 kilometers over the speed limit, and that's the norm. I mean, I live close to Thompson Avenue. It's like a highway most early mornings, people heading down the trail. So I think the critical idea is to have the zone recognized outside of the regular zones or regular streets in our community, for me. And the fact that people just need to know that they have to be extra careful in those zones. If they're already driving 30 or 40 or 50 K an hour and it goes down to a 20 K zone, at least they'll slow down to 30. That's my argument, that, folks aren't going to do 20. I agree, Stu. You're quite right about that. They aren't going to do 20, but at least they could do 30 instead of 40 or 50. And I think, that's my argument there, is that it slows folks down. And Janice has got her hand up.
Stu, I've got Janice is next.
I was just going to say, I know we're talking about trying to make these school zones safer, and we're talking specifically about speed limits, but maybe putting in some permanent motion detector lights that flash that say school zone, and maybe that would be a better use of our time, efforts, and funds to make people more aware that they're in a school zone and they need to be aware that there are kids there. You can set the signs up so that they are on during school hours only, and they don't turn on in the evenings. And maybe that would be a better approach than putting in just a speed limit and hoping for the best.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and I'd like to ask staff what they think about that. Are there some kind of neon flashing signs that say school zone, and maybe that would get people's attention?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. Yes, there's definitely those signs available. It's a matter of course, cost, how they would, be operated through solar, through battery, through power. It would definitely be a budgetary item, but there's no doubt about that we can find something like that.
Okay, Janice?
Well, I think if we're talking about safety, I mean, even if we lowered the speed limits, if someone ignored it and hit a child, I don't think any of us would feel better that we lowered the speed limit to 20 and made it safer. But if we can put up some signs that raise awareness and really, like Darren says, we can find those. I mean, that might be money well spent if it saves a child's life.
Okay, Stuart, I'm sorry, I skipped you. I went back to Janice. My bad.
I just bring this back to my own experience driving around town. I actually do try and drive on the speed limits. I feel a responsibility as a elected official in the community to drive at the speed limit. And I probably don't do it 100% of the time, but I do legitimately make an effort. And I don't think I could do 20. I don't think if I saw a sign saying 20 kilometers an hour, I feel like I just couldn't do it. The idea that we're setting a speed limit that to allow people to drive 10 to 15 over, I just don't understand the logic of that.
No, and it is hard. It definitely is hard. We have people complaining about the 30, but okay. So Darren, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just one quick one. So we did go through an ICBC project. I think they paid 50% of the funds, where we put up the neon green, school zone signs to make people aware that you are in a school zone, which comes from all different angles that lead to the schools. So, they are there for awareness. And if somebody is being a defensive driver, then, they should be seeing those as well. So.
Okay. So are you saying those neon green signs are up now?
Yeah, there's school zone signs with crosswalk signs in various areas.
Okay. Okay, so I think we've had quite a bit of discussion about this. Does anyone want to make a motion of either to lower the speed limit or to get some different, more visible signs or anything? We're open to that. Dirk.
I'm still keen to make a motion to put them at 20. If I could make that motion.
Okay, Dirk makes the motion to put it at 20. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, Andy will second it. Any further discussion? Anything want to say more about it? First Dirk, then Andy. Dirk, anything?
No, I think I've said everything that I feel needs to be said.
Okay, Andy?
I like the idea of the potential of getting some more visible signage. Flashing lights make sense to me where it's appropriate. I know this is a discussion that previous council had. We talked about Washington Street specifically, and the safety risk around school time corresponding close to the closing of Red Mountain, and the amount of traffic that comes down the hill back into town off the highway. And there was a discussion at one point, and I was in agreement with potentially closing the in-town, the traffic off the highway into Washington Street in the afternoon when the hill closes, because we get this steady stream of traffic coming consistently at 3:30, 4 o'clock, depending on the time the hill closes. And that there was some robust discussion, I remember, in the previous council about the possibility of closing that lane in the afternoon or making a wintertime closure so it would direct traffic down to the main entrance to town, Highway 22 on Columbia Avenue coming into town, rather than directing them down from above. It's just something I threw out because there was discussion about it previously. There was people, saying that, well, they didn't have as quick an access to their homes in Upper Roslyn, and that was a big issue for them. But again, we're talking about safety here and safety in our community. So I just wanted to throw that out because, it may be worth entertaining as the hill continues to get busier, maybe not this coming winter, but maybe in the future.
That would be a different motion than the one we have on the table right now. Stu?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll speak to Andy's point if this comes up.
Okay. Okay, so any other comment on the changing the speed limit to 20 motion?
Could we add the idea of adding signage as an amendment to it? Adding more appropriate or more visible signage?
Let's do it as a separate motion because it's actually a different idea. Okay, so this is reducing the speed limit to 20 in the school zone. All in favor? Okay, and opposed? Okay. Okay, so that's defeated. Is there another motion? Janice?
I'd love to make a motion. I'd love to make a motion to have public works staff explore further the costing and options of having motion detector signs around our school zones that flash.
Okay, or some kind of, it doesn't have to be motion detector, but some sort of dynamic signage, and come back to us with a proposal, because there'll be a cost to that, but at least that would be something we could do. Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Chris seconds. Okay, any further discussion on that? Safety signage? Dirk?
I think my only comment to that is that I'm there at drop off all the time, and the plethora of children running around is a fairly good indicator that it's a school zone, and people still cruise through there. So I'm not sure that the expense for flashing signs would really improve the safety. I like safety, obviously, but the flashing children, noisy children is not a good enough indicator often that it's a school zone.
Yeah. Well, let's, if this passes, let's see what staff comes back with, and then at that point, we'll decide whether we want to proceed with it or not. So any other comments on the idea to get some dynamic signage investigation happening? Okay, all in favor? Okay, that carries. All right, so yeah, okay. Okay, we now have a policy review. This is for our permissive exemption tax exemption. That we reconfirm the exemption policy as presented. We have a mover. Janice moves it. Seconder. Chris seconds. Discussion. Anybody want to change anything? I'd made, yes, Dirk.
There was on page 25, item 4, it said these are the criteria if they meet all of the criteria, and one of them was that they hit council's, council's objectives. I didn't know how churches fit into council's objectives. I didn't know if that was if the church needed to be doing something else that fits. It seemed like a potential loophole, that's all.
Okay. Hold on. Aren't churches statutory exemptions on some of it? Part of the church stuff. Elma?
Can they skip that first one?
Just on the building.
Yeah. The church.
If they have extra land, like for parking lots or that type of thing, that has to be specifically exempted.
Yeah.
But we don't have that.
Yeah.
So they're already, churches are exempted by default? They don't have to go through this?
Well, there's
No, they still go through it.
Yeah.
They still have to apply.
Right. But they're handled differently because they're a statutory exemption for the actual church building. And the permissive ones are more the ones that we look at, like the thrift shop and those other kinds, right?
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on that? Yeah. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, that carries. Okay, now we have retaining elements, landscape features. So this is that we reconfirm this policy as presented. Any comments, questions? Mover and seconder. Stuart moves it, Janice seconds it. Any comments? Stu?
I just had a question. So this is just for new things that are being proposed? Is that correct? Or are we going around and identifying things that aren't in compliance and applying the policy? How does it work?
I don't think it's for
No,
new.
it's for, we are not actively enforcing it, but if somebody wants to rebuild something, so it's not only new, it's also a rebuild of a retaining wall or driveway or something like that, then we will use the policy.
Okay.
But we're not going around and identifying.
We're not actively enforcing it, no.
Okay.
Okay, anything else there? All in favor? Okay, carries. Okay, now we have our electric transportation, that we reconfirm our electric transportation policy. Do I have a mover? Janice moves, Dirk seconds. Conversation, Janice, start it up.
I think it's a great policy.
Excellent. Dirk?
I also think it's a great policy.
Okay, who else? You think? Okay, I have a question. It says on page 35, it says council can only participate in the first half of the term. I think we ought to say that the council could participate at any time, but their loan payment must be complete by the end of their term. Because somebody could decide, 3 years into their term that they'd like a e-bike, and they could just pay it back in a year instead of 2 years. Staff, is there any issue with that from your point of view?
It's fine.
Fine. Okay. Does anybody like that change? I've already got my e-bike and my e-car, so I don't care, but
I think I like the idea of that change because I was just looking at e-bikes and apparently they're all sold out. So I'm not sure I can actually get one before the first half of my term is over.
Okay. Okay. So with that change, Cynthia, do you have that?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. I don't know. I guess we should make a motion. Janice, you can make the motion that we're doing that, and
Yep,
Chris.
as amended.
as amended, there we go. Okay,
Second.
Andy, okay, good. Okay, so with that amendment, we'll, let's vote on that first. Everybody good with changing that? Yes. Okay. The other comment I would make is this policy in the report, it talks about the greening of the fleet, but actually the policy doesn't do that. But I'm hoping that we will put together a policy to green our fleet. I don't see it as it fitting here, but perhaps for the next meeting we can craft something along those lines. I'd like us to see that really talks about our fleet as well. Okay, but that's a different thing. So all in favor of this one? Okay, everybody? Good, thank you. Okay, so next up we have a staff report. This is now the Rawls and Beer Company liquor license application, and this is that we recommend approval of the capacity increase for the Rawls and Beer Company after we've considered the various things that were there in the report, which I'm not going to list. So do I have a mover on that? Mover, Janice moves, and Stu seconds. Janice, discussion?
I think that this is a successful business in our community that will certainly be able to, at some point, has the market demand to put 69 people in their brewery. And so I'd like to give them the tools to be as successful as they can in the future.
Okay, Stuart?
Yeah, I agree.
You agree, you don't have anything to add. Okay, does anybody have anything else to add? Andy? You're muted.
Yeah, so I have some concerns about this application. I'm really, as much as I wish to see the business continue to grow and expand, I'm really concerned about the parking in this area and just general downtown parking. We've talked about our parking policy, an updated parking policy for some time now. I know staff has been working on it, but we're going to continue to have more complicated problems by putting more people in smaller areas. And I'm feeling like we should hold off on this request for the time being until we come up with a more strategic parking policy. And, you know, we're going to continue to have, his capacity is certainly on a daily basis in the winter months almost at max. And that includes all the vehicles that have to park in the downtown core to access his business. And I'm just really concerned about, you know, how much more congestion we're just adding to it by having capacity of a popular business. Again, it's nothing against the business. I'm happy for the success, but boy, oh boy, we're just asking for more problems here. And I hope that that we have some solutions when it comes to parking, because it's just going to exacerbate an issue we already have.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments? So I would comment on that, you know, yes, we have a successful business in town, and let's not punish them for their success. If there's no place to park, people can walk. I was interested in the thrift store response because they said they struggle with parking. But one of the things that staff had indicated is that there is room to kind of reorganize the parking over by the thrift store that might be a benefit to them. And I would like to see us, you know, direct staff to help in that regard. But, you know, I don't know. I think we really need to do what we can to support our businesses in town, particularly coming out of this pandemic. And I think it sends the wrong message to turn down an application for someone who's trying to increase their business, you know, at a time like this. I do think it's important that they pay into our parking fund, because we need money in the parking fund to be able to do something with parking once we get our parking strategy in place, whether that means, you know, buying some other lot or, you know, I don't know, building a structure somewhere or whatever. But I do think that's important. So I'm glad to see that that's in there. Okay, Chris, I'm sorry. Did you have your hand up? You did have your hand up. I'm sorry I missed it.
I know I did.
Laura.
All right. We're thinking about convenient parking. In the evenings when the brewery is open and doing well, the thrift store isn't open. The end of the block beside the liquor store is vacant of parking. There's no parking evenings there. So there's a lot of parking around if people want to walk a little bit. Behind the Prestige, there's lots of parking. So I agree. We shouldn't push a business who's trying to grow because of our parking issue.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Or I'm going to call the question, and this is for approval. Any other comments? No? All in favor? Okay, that passes. All right. Thank you. And now we are moving on to development variance permit for Park Street. This is 1670 Park Street, and the recommendation is that we approve the development variance. And I will not read the whole thing, except that the height requirement goes from 6 meters to 7.3 meters for a 1.3 meter variance. So do I have a mover? Andy moves it, Dirk seconds it. Discussion, Andy? Okay,
No.
You're muted, but okay. And Dirk?
No, I think it's, I barely even see it, I think, once it's done. It's all treed in there.
Okay, Stuart?
I'm just going to bring up the same point that I brought up the last time and the time before that, which was modern, well, you know, these architectural trends towards shed roofs seem to need more height, and I think staff and we have better things to do than constantly assess and approve these minor height variances. Maybe we should reconsider the height in our bylaw.
Okay, that's certainly a suggestion. It has been brought up before, and one of the things that we did discuss with it is that because each circumstance is different, like in this situation, a 1.3 variance, you know, may not make a difference, but in a more densely settled neighborhood, it might. And I think that's where we don't want to just have them be sky high. We want to have that choice to turn something down if it's appropriate. Andy, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, it was for exactly that
Okay.
answer. So
Okay.
thanks.
And I have a question to staff, and Stacy, remind me, was the 7.3, that's as high as we've gone anywhere, right? That's not higher than what we've done before, is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty common. It ranges from about 7.1 to about 7.4 is the variances that we've already given.
Okay. Okay, so we're not doing anything we haven't already done, but we are looking at it in the individual circumstance. Okay, unless there's any other questions, comments, I'm going to call the question on this one. All in favor of approval? And no one opposed? Chris? Okay, all right. Okay, good. Okay, that passes. All right, we are deferring the next item. We're moving on to mail ballot voting and election official remuneration. And we have a couple of things that we provide direction to staff on both of these things. So would someone like to make a motion of some sort about mail ballot voting? Dirk.
I didn't see anything compelling in here as to reasons why we wouldn't, and it was hard to kind of evaluate this without an idea of costs. I mean, I'd be keen to see more costs. Like, I did some stuff in my head, and it didn't seem unreasonable to provide another voting option. So I'd like to see more.
Okay, so would you like to make a motion that says that staff does further investigation on this with some actual costs relative to our situation? That was the response, was that, well, each community is different, so there's nothing general. So is that what you want to do?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so Cynthia, you got that?
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder? Chris seconds. Okay, so Dirk, you want to say anything else about it before I go to Dirk? I mean, before I go to Chris?
No, I'm good.
Chris?
Anything that's going to increase the voter turnout.
Get it up from that 32%? Okay,
Yeah.
Andy, you had your hand up?
Totally. I'm all for it.
Okay, anybody else want to speak? Okay, all in favor of a little more investigation? Okay, that passes. Okay, and now a little more direction regarding election official pay. Stuart.
I just wanted to ask, are we challenged in getting people to come and work for this current rate? Like, I mean, is the pay increase motivated by a difficulty in filling the positions we need to fill, or is it some other reason?
Good question. Staff?
From my take on it, yes. I think motivation to assist with elections directly correlates with remuneration. So yes, it is challenging. This last scheduled by-election, I believe Allison was able to get 2 additional poll clerks. However, they were, one was a family member and one was a very keen Roslyn volunteer.
Okay. Okay, so Dirk.
I'd be, I don't think we have to match. I don't like it when we're always matching what the neighbor's doing, but certainly the Elections Canada number of 1904, I think it was, seems reasonable if we're struggling to find people.
Okay, so you make that motion that would be the pay, that would be the hourly rate, and Andy seconds it. Cynthia, you got that? Okay. Okay, any further discussion on that? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, that passes. Okay, yeah, I had the same thing. I said, I'm thinking on this, if we're gonna go average stipend, we better give ourselves a big raise too, because we're way under average for Roslyn counselors. Okay, so now we are looking at that council directs staff to continue with the current business license criteria as outlined in the city's bylaw, city business bylaw 2326. We have, let's see, a motion. Okay, Janice makes that motion, and we have a seconder. Second for discussion. Okay, Stuart. All right, Janice.
I think that staff did a great job of outlining some of the restrictions we have in our ability to directly assist businesses. And I agree with their point that allowing businesses to operate without a business license doesn't set a very good precedent. I think additionally that, you know, I'm watching like Destination BC has actually come out with their new program and it's called Explore BC Locally. So they're starting to roll that out. I'd like to see us work with Roslyn Tourism and the Chamber to make sure that that we have some local representation or a similar local program that's rolled out to our area, and we can get some people coming back into town to help our businesses flourish. They're getting a lot of support from the provincial and federal governments, and I think that it would be appropriate for us to assist them by improving their competitive environment rather than directly financially trying to help them.
Okay, Stuart. I think you were the seconder, weren't you?
Yeah, no, I got nothing to add.
Okay, anybody else? Something to add? Nothing? Okay.
No.
See if I had anything to add. Well, the only thing I would say is that out of this original motion, we didn't anticipate that we would be collecting people's personal information. That was one of the things in the report. It was that we would piggyback on some other, like they would have to prove that, you know, they were able to participate in one of the business programs or the wage program or whatever it is, that they were the business rent or any of that. So I think that's a burden that we wouldn't have. Because that wasn't one of the things we were looking at. I still find that, you know, we in our limited way, like what we are able to help with, it would be nice to find some way to help business, and we still haven't hit on the right thing yet. So, and I am also interested in hearing the quantitative data that we'll get when we know exactly how many people have filed for EI and how many business, you know, what our actual business climate is. So I guess we can let this one go for now, but I'm still interested in finding something that we can do to help our community. So Dirk.
There was something nefarious sounding going on behind my door. I'm sorry, Janice, I missed most of what you said. I didn't want to repeat myself. Do you mind just
working at home with kids?
A quick synopsis, Dirk.
Yes, please.
Just that it's a bad precedent to have businesses be allowed to operate without a business license at all. I don't think we should do that. We're obviously restricted in our ability to give direct financial aid to businesses. But I think that it would be more appropriate for us to assist in improving the business environment for them through indirect ways, like supporting the Explore BC Locally type program that Destination BC is bringing out.
So this is more in line with option 2 then, sort of supporting local economy with buy local campaigns, up to date. I mean, some of the stuff we're doing.
Yeah, I think that you know, in general, I think that is something that we can do that falls within our falls within our scope of things that we're legislatively allowed to do as well. And it'll help improve the business environment for all our businesses, not just individual businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair to say. If we just keep with our business license bylaws, then I would like to see us do both the alternative options of 2 and 3, that we direct staff to investigate other means of support and local thing, which would be the tourism one, for example. And then also, I think we're already doing this, that there's, you know, the thing about up-to-date information, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm hoping that staff's already doing that, but just to reiterate that those 2 things, number 2 and 3, we still want staff to be doing, even if we don't go forward with this one. So, but we can vote on this one now, and then if somebody wants to make a motion on those number 2 and 3 alternatives, we could do that as well. Okay, so anything else on this one? All in favor of continuing with normal business license as is? Okay, Chris, okay. Chris, you're slow to get your hand up tonight, my man.
I think it's, everything seems a little slow around here.
A little slow. Yeah, I think so. I think you're always just a little lag behind everybody else. Okay, so that one's done. Does anyone want to make a motion on number 2 or 3 that were in the alternative options there? That's on page 91. Dirk?
Yeah, I like option 3 the most. Investigating option 3 and 2 is good. 3 seems kind of more focused on us. Option 2 seems more what Destination BC and Rossum Tourism and those sorts of groups. And we're already providing up-to-date information.
Yeah.
I feel like 2 is, we're there-ish. 3 seems worthwhile looking at.
Yeah, but I think even if we're already doing, the fact that it's listed there as an alternative, I'd say we should definitely direct them to keep doing what they're doing, right? So if you want to just say you want both options 2 and 3, then Chris, are you seconding that or are you commenting? We haven't got a motion on the table yet.
No, I want to comment for a second, yeah.
Okay, Dirk, what's your motion?
For a second.
Yeah, that we look at option 3 and expanding option 2.
Okay. And do we have a seconder for that? Chris seconds. Okay. Okay, Dirk, you want to say anything else about it?
No, I just think that, I mean, all the conversations I've had in town, the businesses seem like the kind of the most precarious position, and that it would be good for us to do something to help them out within the bounds that we have, obviously, but it'd be nice to explore those.
Right. Okay. Chris, you were the seconder. Do you have some comments?
Yeah, I like what Dirk's saying, you know, and 2 and 3 are all 3 of them actually are, you know, directs to look for ways that we can support. I think one of the things that we also can do is tie our business license dollars, and maybe it means an increase, but tie it into a membership chamber and have that as an automatic. And it's going to limit our exposure to the funds that we pay to the chamber if we are funneling that down to them. But it'll give everybody a membership as part of their business license. I
misunderstand what you're saying. You're saying we should increase our business license fee so that we then pay the chamber membership fee for businesses?
Increase business license fee to include membership chamber. Does that make sense?
Individual business. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, there's a bunch of businesses we have in town, like home-based businesses or what, who have no interest in being a member of the chamber. I think we got to leave chamber membership as a voluntary thing for the individual businesses. I wouldn't, and that's different than what we're talking about here anyway, so it's not part of this motion. I think we need to give a little more thought to that before we talk about that. Okay?
Sure.
All right, okay. Okay, any other comments on the motion that Dirk has on the table? Stuart?
Yeah, I mean, I like the sentiments of it. I mean, you know, we all would like to help people that are in need, but I feel a bit of sympathy for staff. I don't know, we seem to be providing this sort of like general sort of go out there and find a solution and bring us back something where we can help. We sort of did that before, and this feels like we're going to do that again. I mean, if we've got, you know, if we've got specific issues, we can come up with solutions, but this sort of vague, go find something so that we can feel good about helping, it just feels like what are they going to come back with another report with maybe some more options of more guidance, and you know, it just I'm not sure what we're achieving here.
I think we're just asking them to keep their eyes open for other opportunities, because within the city they have the best handle on where we might be able to help from the city point of view. I don't think we're asking them to do additional research. We're asking them just to keep their eyes open, because there could be something that comes up that, you know, that fits, that doesn't at the moment, but will in the future. I mean, this is such a fluid situation.
But surely they would be doing that anyway, wouldn't they? But no. Do we want them to come back with a report, or is this just sort of guidance, or just a reminder to keep their eyes open for these things?
I see it more as a report. We're not going to have them come back with a report that say, hey, we haven't found anything new. I see more when if something changes, they'll come back and present some opportunity to us. Just as when we're out and about in the world, if we see something that looks like a good opportunity, we can bring it back and talk to staff about it, you know, and talk to each other and talk to staff about it. I mean, we're all working as the same team, right?
Okay.
Okay, any other comments on this one? I'm going to call the question. All in favor of 2 and 3? Okay. Okay. Chris, are you with us?
Yeah.
Chris, are you there? Did you vote?
Yeah. Did I?
Okay.
There's lag.
There's lag for sure. Okay, we are moving on. This is the property tax roll account reconciliation. Oh, Janice, sorry. Yes, Janice. You're muted.
Huh, my unmute button didn't work.
Oh.
Sorry about that. I was looking through the report, and I noticed I sent a note off to staff today. And I did notice that they mentioned that our license fees, they had started looking at them before we ran into the COVID pandemic, and they were equal to or lower than most communities are size. They haven't been changed since January 2018. I'd like to make a motion to have them have a look at that and make some recommendations about business licenses for the next cycle starting in January 2021.
Okay, a seconder? Somebody for discussion? Okay, Chris. Okay, anything else on that, Janice?
No, just, and at the same time, they could look into the idea that Chris had, that the possibility of rolling in a membership with the Chamber of Commerce at the same time. And whether or not that would actually be, one, legislatively, can we do that? And two, will it work for the majority of our businesses?
Okay, now in my peripheral vision, I see that staff's hand is up, and it could have been up there for hours. So I'm sorry if I missed you guys.
It's 3 hours, that's okay.
I'm so sorry.
No worries. We thought you didn't like us anymore.
We love you.
I have a quick comment on that, and then I'll add a quick comment as well. So, okay. Yeah, business license bylaw was reviewed a couple years ago. It was actually at $200. A standard business license was $200, and it actually got reduced down to $125 because the regional, the intermunicipal business license that we do with the City of Trail was $185 for the year, which got you a business license through Montrose, Fruitvale, Warfield, Trail, and Roslyn. So we thought that charging more for a Roslyn only business license didn't make any sense. So that was additionally, a lot of that work was already done previously, and we can continue to look at that if that's still the direction of council. And then Alba just had a question or a comment as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say what Brian said, and then also, the Chamber of Commerce, I believe that that's based on the number of employees, so then we'd have to know how many employees were working for each business, so it becomes a bit of an administrative bottleneck.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think the motion is to have you look at it without us telling you what you're going to find. So there is that. Okay, Dirk, you had your hand up.
I think, yeah. I thought I was on mute. Sorry if there was a lot of crying just a second ago. I think for me as a business owner, I don't mind paying more for the business license. I do talk to people on a somewhat regular basis that are operating here without them. So I think our best interest would be a little more robust plan to get more people paying for their business licenses. In terms of the chamber, I would not be interested in that. I'm province-wide and into Alberta. I have no interest in participating in the chamber here other than a philanthropic thing, but it doesn't from a business perspective. So I'd be all right with increased business licenses and more cost recovery on that, getting more of them sold, bought, whatever that.
Yeah, I'd be interested in keeping our license fees the same, but getting more people to get them, because a lot of people say they don't see a value in a business license. So we have to sell the concept of what the benefit of having a City of Roslyn business license is, and the higher the price, the more we're going to have to work at getting people to see what the benefits are. So, I mean, I think we have to be careful with that. Janice, go ahead.
I was just going to say that with our business licenses, like any service, I don't think we want to devalue the opportunity of having a business in Rossland. So having some ideas about what business license costs look like in the region, the area, similar types of communities, size-wise or demographic-wise, would help us set that somewhere where it reflected the value of doing business in Rossland without being punitive.
So it's really just updating the 2018 report, because that was all, basically included in that. But by the time we're looking at this, it's going to be for 2021, and that's probably a long enough time that it's time to look at it again so we don't fall behind. Okay, anybody else want to speak on this, or we'll call the question? All in favor of a review for 2021? Okay, that passes. Chris, I'm assuming you're coming along. Okay. Yeah, just keep your hand up. By the time we get to you, you can put it down again. Okay, so now we're doing a little housekeeping to remove from the property tax roll a manufactured home that no longer exists. There shouldn't be a lot of discussion about this one. Who wants to make the motion? Andy makes the motion, seconder. Dirk seconds. Any discussion at all necessary? I don't think so. Call the question. All in favor? Okay, and I know Chris is there too. Okay, Gold Fever Follies, request to waive the rental fee for the use of the Miners Hall and extend their existing contract for another year since they aren't active this year. A mover? Dirk moves, Janice seconds. Any discussion? Anybody have any discussion on this one? Okay, Janice?
I was just going to say, I just think this is the right thing to do for one of our valuable community groups.
Yeah, okay. All in favor? Okay. And nice to let them know that it certainly was unanimous. We're supporting them because I know they're feeling pretty beat up. Okay, so next one is that we endorse the proposed City of Roslyn COVID-19 Community Restart Plan. Excellent plan. Who wants to move this? Somebody. Okay, Dirk and Andy, comments?
I think the only comment is I heard, and I can't tell if Christie's there, but sounds like the Warfield pool is not starting up for safety reasons, not anything else.
No, I've just got the document was just really, I mean, I can't speak to their choices. Everything I've heard has been financial, but the Life Saving Society documents were just released today. There was a 2-hour some odd meeting that we sat through today on this, another one to go through these documents with BCRPA. It all looks very much what we were expecting. Nothing's jumping out here that's saying that this is a safety risk at all. In fact, it says several times in here that the chlorinated water itself is a disinfectant agent, and dunking equipment in it and such is a way of just decontaminating things.
But should we be drinking it?
Sounds like someone is somewhere. No comment.
It's not the chlorine I'm concerned about.
It is the chlorine in them. Oh, I see. For drinking, yes.
Okay. Well, you know, I think it's a really good plan. I'm really very pleased with what staff's come up with, because it seems, you know, logical and all that. And of course, as you know, I've been keen to open our facilities and amenities up as soon as we can safely do it. And I'm really glad to see that staff took advantage of the closed miners hall, for instance, to push some projects forward that we would have been done next year. So that's good to get the bathrooms done and the floors and all that. So yeah, I think it's all good. Okay, any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Nobody opposed. Okay, excellent. All right, we need a motion to approve our April check register. Can somebody make a motion? Chris makes a motion and Andy seconds it. Any comments or questions on that while we have Elma as a captive audience? All good, all in favor? Okay, all in favor, okay. Now we've got some city reports for our information. No motions needed, but you are always welcome to ask questions and comments. So first is our Q1 budget update. Always a good informative report. Anybody have any questions or comments? Nope. Okay, now we're moving on to our annual grant update. I love this one. I think this is a great report. I was very happy to see this come forward last year and this year. And I just want to make a comment about this, that there are huge improvements to the tracking and the reporting of these. And I also want to point out that there's been really terrific success of grant writing since our current staff has been, you know, in place. So I want to thank you guys for a job well done, because really you start to see that graph there, and it's pretty, the timing is not just coincidental. So thank you. Anybody else have questions or comments there? Okay. Now we're on to the RDKB service, the general overview and tax requisition report. Again, questions and comments from anybody? I think Elma's idea for future reports that she'll include information about requisition would be helpful. It gives us a fuller picture of how expenses are handled there. Okay, moving on to building inspection. Anybody questions, comments? Okay. Building permit. No. Public Works reports. They've been busy. Thank you. Water production. No. Yes, Dirk.
I'm just fascinated that during a lockdown, water production goes down 18%. Is that because of the prestige maybe, or is that people aren't showering anymore?
Darren?
My take on it, Dirk, is the weather has been very favorable for not watering lawns, you know, where we've seen in other years. That's the only thing I can see. And also we're a little bit late on flushing hydrants. But yeah, I'm hoping everybody's showering and whatnot.
Okay, Janice, did you have your hand up?
I was just gonna say, I was laughing because I thought, don't need to shower. I'm not going out anywhere. But there's an interesting
information, Janice, too much information.
But it was interesting that Dirk brought up the idea of the hotels not being full, and if that would make that big of a difference of the on the water consumption. So, or partially. I mean, for sure the water or the weather has helped us out there. But yeah, very interesting.
Well, throw in the amount of coffee that the grind isn't producing, the steam shovel and the warewashing and dishwashing. The hotels for sure. The brewery hasn't been producing like it normally does. You know, all of our businesses use up a lot of water.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, thank you for the informative reports. We are now moving on to members' reports. I'll start with Stuart.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, moving on to Dirk.
I got the wrong tab open. 1 second. Just the library. Working towards a reopening plan there. They've got the sneeze guard, and then I don't know if you've seen it on social media, but you can get books out from the library and pick them up at the library. There's still no interlibrary loans, but they're kind of working their way back into a groove to help keep the community well read.
Great. Okay. Andy.
I have quite a few regional district meetings that I'll be reporting on shortly. It certainly seems like most governments and administration, a lot of time is being spent dealing with the COVID-19 crisis. As we've heard, the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, is up and running for the regional district. A number of staff are involved in that. Unfortunately, they have had some flooding in the boundary in the last 24 hours and anticipate more with the forecast. So there has been, activation going on, both with flooding concerns, the freshet, spring freshet, and of course the COVID-19 issue as well. The impact on the city will be minimal for the time being, and let's hope our are continuing to concentrate on City of Roslyn and don't have to get involved with a more extensive effort on the operations stints. We'll see. Anyways, I will be providing more information in an upcoming report.
Okay, thank you. I love those written reports. Yeah, you're doing well with that. Thank you. Janice, you're up.
All right, I attended a Kootenai Boundary Family Physician Primary Care Committee meeting. The group is working out a business plan with costs and revenues to determine the viability of combining multiple services, medical services in one location. I attended a webinar put on by the BC Economic Development Association on reopening our economies and how that might look in different geographies. It was very interesting. My takeaway was that Roslyn is well positioned to recover faster and better than many other communities or resort areas. And I have to say that I've gone to a number of webinars, or I've attended a number of webinars about both tourism and reopening economies, and a similar theme has come out of all of them. So it leaves me very positive about what things will look like as we're able to get out of these restrictions. I attended a Midtown transition meeting. We're still waiting for the final results from the BC Housing Energy Modeler to see if there needs to be any changes to the plan and to finalize some costs. And I attended a Recreation Task Force meeting. Unfortunately, we did not meet quorum, and so it was a very short meeting, and we rebooked it. That's it.
Okay, great. Chris.
We had Heritage Management or Heritage Commission meeting last week discussing the Heritage Management Plan draft that came out. And as mentioned, we're going to prioritize 10 action items each that we're going to talk about tomorrow in our meeting. They're developing their website into something new and cool, including more info on things like the cemetery. Signage at the cemetery is getting updated. I also attended the transition meeting, and it is still a work in progress, as Janice mentioned. I attended the Regional Economic Response Planning session last week as well, and that was very interesting. It was quite vast. There were a lot of people, and this is the one that Kathy mentioned that she should get to. To Janice's point, I think we're faring very well as a city, and I'm very glad to see that we're staying the course with the things that we're doing, and I think we're going to come out of this okay. I have no crystal ball, so I don't really know, but I got good feelings. Again, I also attended the Roslyn Community Health Center initiative with our local practitioners. They've got some great ideas. They're looking to create a better business model for themselves here locally. That'll allow them to a fair work-life balance is what I think the doctors here are mostly looking for, as well as great doctors. The South Kootenai Business Virtual Roundtable last week was postponed. It's happening tomorrow, and I'm actually a speaker on it at noon, talking about how our businesses here locally, and at least the ones that I'm involved with, are transitioning through all of this. And we have different stages and different levels of that. So that is it.
Okay, good, thanks. I've got a couple, along with our CAO, I was on a teleconference with the RCMP and other local government folks. The RCMP is actually changing their structure back to a less centralized management system for our area, which I'm not quite sure how it's going to look, but it could be more likely we'll get more local autonomy here, which is interesting for our detachment. It's going to happen over the next year or so. So we'll be, keeping updated on how that's going. Along with our CAO, we had a teleconference with Minister Bear and all the other resort municipality community members. And again, moving towards a slow opening, and she really understands that tourist towns are hit hard by lack of business, and that the RMI payments are going to be accelerated this year. Plus, there's a little more flexibility in how we can spend the money, but it has to be all tourism based. So that means, like, usually RMI money is meant for like capital projects having to do with or a lot of it is with tourism. And this year, if we needed to use some of that RMI money to do maintenance on RMI projects that we've had in the past, that's actually something that's allowed. I don't know that that would apply to us, but for some communities, that's very helpful. There was a teleconference with mayors and CAOs with Minister Robinson. And again, this was shifting to the recovery. So not just the survival of the pandemic, but now the recovery. The Premier's plan was announced. The sector plans are required in conjunction with WorkSafe BC, and the rollout will be gradual and monitored. And of course, as you all know, it's starting now. So that's good. There was a low carbon resiliency and governance Zoom call that RDI had hosted, and they are working with 13 communities with SFU. The CAO of Gibson's was there. He presented on the kind of focus of co-benefits of climate action, things like resiliency, new jobs, and a lot of focus in Gibson's on green infrastructure when planning local government projects. It was really quite interesting. Sadly, it wasn't very well attended. That was supposed to be, all of these local government people, but there weren't very many municipalities represented. So that was too bad. I had a conversation with the Art Matters folks. They are still working on their plan to bring to council. Unfortunately, COVID interrupted their progress, but they'll still come to us. Their thing is not going to be a 60-page document like the Heritage Management Plan. It's going to be more like a 3-page document. But they're hoping that their concerns will be incorporated into our OCP also to get a little more of an arts focus in the OCP. Along with Janice and Chris, attended the Midtown project meeting. Another call with Selgar. There's still no word for them on their request for support for the pulp industry. Then we had the renewable group, 100% renewable group. We had a call with them, and they're doing a survey that's been released to the public because we can't have in-person gatherings. I don't know how successful that's going to be. We had a very successful group gathering when we did it here in Roslyn. I don't know how the survey, how well that's going to work, but they're still working on that. They're moving towards getting their expert committees together, which will help advise the plan on specific areas, whether it's transportation or construction or whatever the focus area is. Let's see. Oh, there was an economic development, the regional recovery that Mike Stolte, and that's the one Chris was on. Chris, that's the one you're talking about, right, with Mike? I think that was that one. I was just in and out of that because I had a lot of, I had some other stuff going on. But one of the things that came out of that, they're recommending, more training, really trying to get our communities to sort of step away from being afraid of visitors because of the pandemic to being welcoming. So it's going to be kind of a big shift there. And they say the keys to recovery are capital, coordination, collaboration, connections, confidence, and compassion. So it kind of sounds like best practices at any time, but hopefully, I think there's a lot of fear from people about how things are going to roll out in the recovery because there's already a lot of hostility out there. If you see an Alberta plate, someone thinks, who is that? They shouldn't be here, that kind of thing. And it really isn't that way. We have to open up. We just have to do it smart. Okay, so that is it. And unless anybody forgot something they want to add, we'll take a motion to recess our meeting to an in-camera, and this is pursuant to 91E, the acquisition, disposition, expropriation of land or improvements. So who'll make the motion? Andy makes the motion, Dirk seconds it, we're all out. And thank you to the visitors in the gallery, and this ends this meeting. Council, you will be rejoining another meeting. We'll end this one, start the next. All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks, everyone.